Welcome to the Get Real Podcast, your high-octane boost of full-on reality therapy for personal, business, and investing success with your host, Ron Phillips, because somebody's got to tell it like it is.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Get Real Podcast. Heather is laughing. I told you this week we were going to kind of continue the conversation about the moratorium, but more importantly, not necessarily the moratorium itself, but what happens when you post something. And I just want, because last week we told you guys not to stay quiet. We told you you've got to push back with this ridiculous narrative. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, gear up, because we're actually going to talk about, one of my friends posted, this is all they said. Yesterday, a federal judge ruled the eviction moratorium unconstitutional. And then, quote, although the COVID-19 pandemic still persists, so does the Constitution. Ron, if you'll remember from last week, that's my favorite comment. That's it. Yeah. And then he posted the link in the comments so that people could read it for themselves. Enter the socialist moron. I am absolutely, so I start reading this. I get dumber as I read it. I'm going to do some poll quotes and we're going to talk through this. This is 66 comments deep. And where this heads directly after the comment, the post was very simple, right? My buddy is a landlord and he's excited that the moratorium is over for good reason. He's actually going to start getting paid some money now. I think we'll come up with a different, Heather, come up with a kinder, gentler name than moron. I don't know what else to call this guy.
I think it's someone that is looking, like, sees things from a socialist point of view, right? That if there weren't landlords, things would be better. So it's the anti-landlord guy is maybe.
Anti-housing? I'm not sure what this guy's okay, so we're just going to call him the socialists because that's what he is. No. Yeah. I happen to think he's a moron. Some of you out there are going to agree with him based on
But they 2 years of listen to us.
I was going to say based on 2 years of listening to the show, if you're a socialist and you're still with us, you'll probably agree with him. I can't imagine that would be the case, but at this point, who knows? We'll know by the comment and the dislikes we get today, but I don't really care. This is absurd. And we need to, like I said last week, Heather, we got to start fighting back against this.
Yeah. Yeah. It's scary.
And this poor guy, I say poor guy because somebody taught him this nonsense. You don't come out of the womb thinking what this guy thinks. Unfortunately, there's millions of them. Let me read you a pull quote from his first comment is, I think people being allowed to live for free. So my buddy says, this guy says, well, the economy is now effed. Okay, so in his world, people having to pay rent F's the economy. So my buddy says, I think people being allowed to live for free is a negative on the economy. You think it adds to the economy? And this guy, he goes off the rails. And he says, Heather, beforehand, he says, this, as always, capitalism doesn't solve a problem. Okay, now listen to what he says. It just pushes the problem outside the capitalist bottom line. And you got to think through this for just a second, because clearly we need to educate the socialist about what the CDC just did. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Did the CDC, or did they not push the problem off to somebody else? Yeah.
Completely.
They took the problem off of the tenant and moved it to the landlord.
A lazy solution, which I love in these comments, that it's a lazy solution to this problem was to dump the problem on the landlords.
Okay, so right after that, this guy goes for the jugular, right? This is classic socialist. You're thinking of how much profit you could make next month. I think of these people don't have a place to live and can't get one. How's that going to affect the labor market? As if my buddy doesn't care about humans at all. Yeah. As if any of us who own property don't care about, and that we are no longer human because we are lesser than this guy, the socialist, because he cares about people, and obviously we don't. This may get tuned up today. I don't really know. So then a whole bunch of people go off on this guy. And one of the comments, I think that one that you were laughing at, or maybe that was mine, I'm not sure.
It was yours, yeah.
We'll get to mine in a minute. And it is kind of funny. But this one guy says people need food too. Yeah. But restaurants and grocery stores are not being forced to give it away for free.
Yeah, or farmers for that matter, right? Oh, you grew all these vegetables, but these people are hungry. You just need to give it to them and take no profit. I mean, it's the same. I had never thought of it that way before. It's a brilliant comment.
So the reply, and I thought that was also a brilliant comment. So his reply to this brilliant comment was, "You're just trying to justify the continued existence of landlords. The people who live in these apartments would probably love to own them. All landlords do is take housing off the market, driving up the price for everyone. Rent seeking is actually a negative in the economic textbooks." And here we have it. This is why I say the poor guy. Somebody gave him a textbook that made him way too educated. Obviously, way too educated. So educated that he can't even, like, common sense is gone out the window.
Yes.
And how is that in any way a response to the brilliant comment from the other person? That doesn't even answer it. You're just trying to justify the continued existence of landlords.
Well, I wouldn't even know what to say back because it doesn't make any sense.
Landlords have existed since Adam's kids left, and one of them staked out some land and the other one wanted to use it. Okay, then you have to rent it. That's the way it works.
Yeah.
I own it. Oh my gosh. And this goes way off the rails as we continue to go down through here. He said something intelligent, the socialist. He said the government had no problem printing trillions of dollars to bail out the insurance companies and banks. Yeah. And that was wrong too. That was wrong too, because they bailed out those people but didn't bail out the other one. That's exactly my point. So this time they bailed out the tenants and then they didn't bail out the landlords. If we're going to be bailing people out, you can't pick winners and losers. You just got to bail out everybody. So if it's housing, you just bail out housing, or you don't. It would be my preference. You just don't mess. And maybe you don't shut down the entire economy to begin with, and then maybe we won't have the same problem that we have to fix after you actually created the problem.
Set up a durable nonprofit land trust that you can
This
sell
guy's
to.
this guy's a gem. This guy's a gem. I'm going to get down here to my comment. I'm not sure exactly when I step into this. I literally read this and I'm getting dumber the whole time. And before anybody comments that dumber's not a word, I'm using it on purpose because I got dumber reading this. So my comment, I'm pretty sure I lost brain cells reading this. There's literally nothing that can be said to a person who believes that people who have never owned property somehow had their property stolen. This guy said that landlords stole property from these people. Okay? Now, you marinate on that while I read the rest. And there's nothing that the government has ever made better, less expensive, and more efficient. In addition, there's nothing that they've made more fair for anyone, anytime, ever. And this is a case in point. Those who want the life described above, which is basically a utopian society where everyone loves everybody else, and I think they do rain dances and, fun fire dances and things like that, might do better seeking out a country which would be happy to provide it for them. Yeah. Grateful that the judge stood up. Wish he would have enforced the injunction. And I still do. I wish he should have created an injunction in the state of Texas that stopped this nonsense. But he punted. So, good for him. And at the same time, kind of punted. This winter starts in on private property. Now, oh boy.
I'm like mind blown.
There is a real movement. I've talked about this. Socialist is only one of millions out there who are pushing this diatribe. You need to listen to what these people think. So in answer to my post, he says, private property was stolen in the first place. You're all arguing about the rules for stolen property in the first place. Without state violence, you couldn't maintain private property. Owning things is not a job. I can prove it with a simple thought experiment. Okay, now he's educated, so, back up. If everyone worked and nobody owned more than they could simply possess, the world would work just fine. Did you get that? If everyone worked and nobody owned more than they could simply possess, the world would work just fine.
What is simply possess? What? Okay.
I thought the whole premise of his post was that you weren't supposed to possess anything.
Yeah.
And that we all lived as a commune
Mm-hmm.
Owning things is not a job, he says. I really mean this sincerely from the bottom of my heart. My response to him, I think college really screwed you up. And I'm sorry that you've become so educated that you can't use common sense. But I lack the motivation to try and help you. And I did that day. I didn't comment again that day. But as Facebook is known to do, it puts these little notifications. And so the next day I had all these notifications of all of this ridiculousness, and I just couldn't bring myself to ignore it. Heather, I don't know why I try with stupid people, but I do. I literally tried with this guy. I blame the fact that I couldn't do this on some capitalistic things that I had to do, which I think pissed him off, but it's okay. It's okay.
I have capitalistic things to do. I will bid you adieu.
This dude, I mean, it gets better. It gets better. Again, this is 66 comments deep.
It's like a novel. Yeah.
I mean, and this guy doesn't ever back down. So I finally, after I read a bunch of this stuff, like this one, you can't seem to separate management from ownership. The farmer who tills his own land himself isn't exploiting anyone, except for he stole the land, right? I mean, you can't make this stuff up. You cannot make this stuff up. But when he hires cheap labor to harvest for him, he's exploiting those people. Obviously, they didn't show up asking for a job. He went out and forcibly made them do work on his land for which he paid them. Independent tradesperson doesn't make a profit. Heather, didn't you know that?
Yeah, of course. No profit.
Except until they hire someone. Yes, all of you out there, that's exactly what this socialist means. That means we all must be independent tradespeople. We can't work for someone else, because if we do, we are being exploited. Heather, you're being exploited right now.
Yeah, I feel
you don't even know it. That's what she's being so quiet. She's sitting here going, wait a second.
I literally am like dying.
I am being exploited right now, and I don't like it.
I think the part that blows my mind the most about that comment by itself is over the years, and this is not just working with you at RP Capital, Ron, I've had people tell me like, oh, you should just branch off and start your own business, right? You shouldn't work with the owner of the company. You should start your own. And I took it as a compliment. They saw talent, in me or whatever. But I every time said, I have no interest. Like if I work for someone that I enjoy working with, I mean, I don't even consider it working for, I consider it working with every time. And that it's like a team approach to getting a job done versus exploitation. But I think there's something to be said about coming together with a group. And we had this whole thing we did this week, Ron, with a brain analysis. And when we work together, how we are more complete, because you're very right-brained, I'm more left-brained. And
not only complete, though, if you'll recall, we go many times better. Did she call us a perfect person? I think she is. She's almost a perfect person.
So. Almost together, a perfect person together.
Heather and I become a perfect person, and we can prove it. I should send it to this guy and just prove it. Say, dude, you are lesser than, because Heather and I together are a perfect person.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that Heather is being exploited constantly.
I think there's something about working together and getting a job accomplished and utilizing different skill sets.
Okay, well, I think that you are now becoming a socialist, because that is what this dude actually says, Heather. Because I went and looked this guy up.
Oh, yeah?
Now, I don't suggest this, okay? But if someone is being really stupid, if you just take a second and go look on their page, sometimes you find really funny stuff. So when I go look at this guy's page, it very prominently in the About Us section says that he's a partner in a painting company.
What?
I mean,
no way.
It doesn't get any better than this. So I post, because I can't take it anymore. He's out there promoting this socialist thing, and he is a partner in a painting company. So I said, wait a second. Are you a partner in a painting company? You capitalist, you? You used to be a union guy, because just below that, he was a union tradesperson, and now he's a partner in a painting company. I said, this is rich. This is the greatest gift ever that you could have given the whole thread. I mean, the dude's a complete hypocrite. So then he has to explain himself now, because I have completely outed him as a fraud. Guess what?
You didn't send me this part, so now I'm waiting with bated breath.
This guy, well, it was 66 comments. Heather. I couldn't send that many screenshots. It was just, we'd have never gotten on here. This guy, somebody said, well, what about if you need to move and you hire a moving company? He says, there's nothing wrong with hiring a moving company. The fact that the workers own their own truck means that they're not being exploited by an owner.
Oh my gosh.
If you owned the truck and hired 2 guys to move things all day and you keep the profit because they can't afford their own truck and you can, then you are a capitalist with a moving company. This is great. So Mr. Man, in order to get around all of his logic, because he wanted to become a boss, let's just call it what it is. The guy wants to become a boss and he wants to make more money. So what does he do? He starts a co-op. Now, a co-op is better than a union. Everybody out there, listen, this is really important. Now, you need to understand that in the socialist world, there is no hierarchy. You just heard him. He said, we all have to be independent tradespeople. Nobody can make more than anybody else. And yet, here's the definition.
No kidding.
A union tries to get you a better deal from the ownership. A co-op makes the owners the workers. And I said, dude, that's awesome. I assume the partners make the same as labor then, right? He said, the partners are the labor.
Oh, interesting.
Okay. Now I'm with him. I'm like, dude, I like this. Pay scale from $16 to $21 an hour. Now all of a sudden, I can't. I said, there you go. Scale is for capitalist pigs. You have to pay everyone the same. In addition to that, I think we also learned that you have to make your own tools, because you can't buy them from somebody else who stole the plant and the land the plant sits on to make the tools. So you better go find some trees and some paint too, because the rest of what you're painting was stolen.
This is your comment?
That's my comment, yes. Look, here's the reality.
What did he say back? You're like leaving me hanging. What did he say back?
Oh, he said that I made up a straw man argument and that I seem really confused about class politics. He makes it simple for me. Do you own someone else's workspace? If so, you're a capitalist. If no, you're a worker. That's it, really. Whatever you've been told, you're not capitalists. You simply work for them. Okay, so in this crazy socialist mind, him being a partner in a co-op where he makes more money than other people to which he employs. Now, granted, they have to join the co-op, but I think that's the same thing as joining a company.
Yep.
And accepting a payment. Now, that payment may be different than the ownership. And since he is an ownership and a boss, he makes more money than the rest of the people. I just wanted him to be welcomed into the capitalist world that he actually lives in.
Yeah.
You need to understand something about socialists. You got to love the fact that they want everything to be equal so bad, except for them. They don't want to be equal. They want to be in charge of making everyone equal. Just like this socialist, there has to be a bump for being so smart that you can make it equal for everyone else, all the plebes. You have to be able to do that. It's only logical that in a co-op, someone has to run the thing, right? Now, one of the things that's really, really important here is this land ownership thing. This is a really big deal. It is sweeping the country, and you just have to understand how to combat this. So I jump in one more time and I try really hard. This guy goes off on this big thing and goes back to saying that we stole everything. My comment to him is long, but it is really important. Okay. We need to start with this whole capitalism, right? There's never been a system which has brought more economic advancement to the vast majority of common people inside of a country ever in the history of man, period. Hard stop. Heather, can you think of one?
No.
Doesn't exist. Now, this guy says he's a history buff. So I said, if you love history so much, find one that's better. Let me know.
Yeah.
Next point.
100%.
Your entire premise is based on people kindly coexisting. That's literally never happened in the history of the planet. Okay? We go all the way back to
So
Adam and
true.
Eve. Adam and Eve's kids started duking it out. One killed the other one.
Yeah.
And guess what? Almost all of the battles are based on land, private ownership of land, period. The myriad of invading forces that this guy talks about, right? So he goes back and he talks about us. We conquered America and we kicked out the Indians, right? We just kicked them right the hell out of their own land. Then he talks about people invading Africa and they just kicked them the hell right out of their land. Problem is, the myriad of invading forces that he was talking about were only part of the history. It's the part that the socialists like to talk about. Because let's take Africa, for example. Before the invading forces from the north came in, all of the people in Africa were fighting over the same land. It's as if all of the Africans were just sitting there and they were just kumbayaing and nobody killed anybody ever. They'd been fighting over the same land forever. So this has never happened. It will never happen. Before we came to America, the Indians and the Incans and everybody else on this side of the hemisphere were all killing each other.
Well, unless we can weed out the part of our human nature that's all about ourselves, and which is almost impossible to weed out as a collective group. I mean, it hasn't happened for that reason. I mean,
and he says,
you have a self-interested part of you.
And he says that governments, you have to have a government in order to enforce private property. No, you don't. I mean, I guess you could call all of the little tribes that were enforcing their own private property that they claimed for themselves for centuries before we got here were themselves some type of government. They were just tribes. Private property and even communal property has to be enforced by someone. And guess what? That enforcement, Heather, it comes by killing people. That's the way it works.
Since the beginning of time. If you don't
enforce it, somebody's going to take it. I don't understand. Heather, explain to me how it is that someone gets so far gone that they cannot figure this out. This is really not that complicated.
It feels like he's talking in circles to the point that he can't cover up his mistakes anymore, right? Like the mistakes in the logic, I mean. So that you're kind of twisting everything to the point that it's a big mess. And that's why I've been sitting here going, I don't even know how it's logical anymore because it's twisted and distorted.
Okay, well, there is a massive movement that is teaching the young people of our country that our country is illegitimate because we stole it from other people. And all I would say to that is that may be so, but so did everyone else since the dawn of man.
Yeah.
That would mean that every single other place is illegitimate, that there is no legitimate place. It just doesn't make any sense. Get over yourself.
The same way. Yeah.
Everywhere. I mean, think about all of the wars just in the modern history and how many. I mean, look at World War I and World War II and look at all of the land that was displaced and retaken. And I mean, all of that is illegitimate now. So what are we supposed to do now, all those countries that are over there? We just blow borders up and everybody just lives kumbaya again. That's just not the way it works, okay? It's not. And then lastly, there's this thing about companies and capitalism. This co-op thing is the biggest joke I've ever heard of.
It's just a different name.
It is. So I said, look, all you've done here is you've bound together and formed a company that you like to call a co-op.
Yeah.
It's got owners. Some people do better than others, just like everywhere else in the real world. And then let's take it a step further. Let's say Mr. Man's co-op goes out there and bids a job. Don't they do that to make money?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think they go out and do it for free. Do they, Heather?
They're painting and stealing people's money.
That's literally what every single company tries to do. Some of them do it better than others. Some of them don't do it very well at all. And guess what? They go out of business, just like his co-op will if he doesn't bid the jobs right. Look,
unbelievable.
He's upset because he thinks my company takes advantage of folks. and that somehow his doesn't take advantage of people. And since he has no idea about our company, Heather, how could he possibly know that?
When we go to hire at our company, how almost always it's friends of current members of the team that are referred.
Let's take it a step further and let's dissect his company. In his company, you can literally make $16 to $21 an hour. There's your spread. That's it. It's all you get to make. What do you get if you come up with a really brilliant idea that's going to make the company more money?
Yeah. Or if you get a big job for the painting company, right? What if you have a family
then you're
member?
A boss, you get $21.
Yeah.
Ooh. And if you come up with some brilliant idea that makes the company more money, do you get to grow into that position or anything? No. There's positions between $16 and $21, period. They're capped. They've capped everybody. Heather, is anybody in my company capped?
Nope. We're always saying, where do you want to be? What position, what seat do you want to sit in? Let us know. We'll build a plan to help you get there. You know what I mean? I mean, it's constant looking at how to raise people.
So let's just think through this for just a second. Mr. Co-op is capped. They can now bid jobs, probably at less money because they don't care about making any profit. That's good for them. Great. Okay. Evil capitalist over here. We have a company. We bring people into the company, not by force, mind you. They all have chosen to work with us. Okay. Now they're all paid. Almost everyone is paid more than the people that work in this co-op. I want everybody to understand, like almost everybody in my company, no.
Yeah.
Everyone
I think it's everyone. Yeah.
Makes more than these people at the co-op. Okay. Doesn't matter what, pick a position. Everybody makes more than these people. Okay. In addition to that, there's literally no cap. So what helps people better? The ability to grow and become better, both personally and professionally, make more money for their families, or the co-op that puts a big fat cap right on top of you and won't let you grow? Which one's better?
Yeah. Who would stay there? Eventually they'd just all leave and go.
They'll leave and go make their own co-op because it'll be better that way.
But when you're capped, you don't want to grow. You don't have aspirations to have something bigger. And I don't know. I just think it's really sad.
I feel badly for anyone that joins that co-op because they will be taught, probably pretty forcefully, that that's the right and only fair way to do things. But capping people's earning potential and people's internal potential for growth is about the most despicable thing I can think of. It perpetuates sloth. It turns people into lazy punks.
Yeah. There's something about like the magic of being alive that you have aspirations for something bigger. And it doesn't even necessarily even mean about workforce stuff, going on vacations, going and doing things with your family. Like that sedentary type of message, I think can be destructive to people when you are just looking for something bigger in your life.
So these, my final comments to this socialist, apparently were finally too much. He did not ever reply after I pointed out the hypocrisy and the fallacy in every single one of his 3 points that he made over and over ad nauseum in different ways, trying really hard to be a better system than capitalism. It's just not, people.
People have
Look
tried.
around.
There's nothing better.
There's no place that is better. The poorest in America are richer than everyone else in the world. Guys, we've got to fight back against this. We cannot allow these people to take over the brains of our youth and convince them that this is the way forward. It's simply not. It's simply not. I don't know what more to say about this, but it fires me up. These people are coming for your property. You guys out there that own real estate, you better wake up.
And make you feel guilty for wanting to be successful. I mean, that's so twisted.
Since when in America did we abuse people for being successful?
Yeah.
It's now the trendy thing to do, to just beat the crap out of people for being successful. It is a damn shame that it has come to that in America. And I'm telling you right now, those of you who own property or aspire to own property or aspire to be better, I mean, even this joker obviously aspires to be better because he wants to make more than everybody else in his company.
Yeah.
Such a joke.
Or there wouldn't be a range.
If you get right down to the end of this, in every single situation, a socialist will always want you to be socialist and they don't want them to be. Bernie Sanders is about the biggest example of this there is that's popular right now. That dude made millions of dollars from a book, but will he give any of that away? No, I mean, barely gives anything to charity as it is.
Mm-hmm.
He's never done anything in his life except for win elections. That's it. You want to talk about, but that doesn't make any difference, right? He even said it. Well, I wrote a book and it's sold. I should have the money. Yeah, that's called capitalism.
Yeah.
It's not called socialism. It's called capitalism. Yep. I agree with you. You wrote the book, you make the money.
Yep.
Done. I agree. I started a business, I make the money. I buy the apartment, I make the money. Look at me agreeing with Bernie Sanders.
It's so twisted and confusing to me,
so
the logic. So
I'm sorry, but not sorry that we had to go political. You guys, this is really important. It's not just about socialist versus capitalist. This is about whether or not you want the government to be in charge of the means of production and how much people can make and what people can do. That is not why America started. It is not why we are the best country in the world. And we are. Not taking anything away from, I mean, I love the Bahamas, but America's best, right? We may not have the clearest water, but we're the best. So anyway, I don't know what else to say about this other than you're going to see it more. You guys got to fight back. Now, don't fight dirty. Fight with logic. Logic wins. You can clearly see. There's two more comments. They were not from him. They were from other people. He went away. He lost. They always do.
Yeah.
Because their arguments don't make any sense.
It's not logical.
Kind of like this stupid CDC. Mm-hmm. Okay. Anyway, we need to be done. I'm glad we tackled this topic. I hope you guys enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I hope that give you some ammo for
when you have a conversation like this. People are going to have conversations like this. So understanding the logic is important.
You have to, because if you don't, other people are going to read it and they're going to think this is actually the way forward. Mm-hmm. Because man, it feels good. Doesn't it feel good if everybody gets to win?
Exactly.
Everybody gets to win.
The message of everyone deserves to have everything sounds so good. But when you get to what that means and you unravel the thought process and what would happen in our society if that was really true, there's no way it will work.
So in light of the fact that capitalism is the best way forward, until next week, get out there and actually make something happen. And, while you're at it, take down some socialists.
This has been the Get Real Podcast. To subscribe and for more information, including a list of all episodes, go to getrealestatesuccess.com.